And let me thank Frankie, who I just learned last week, even though we've been friends for a long time. I said, how did you get the name Frankie? He said his father was Francisco. So, Frankie, thank you and the Hispanic Federation for the great job you do in New York and around the country. And I appreciate everybody being here today, including my colleague in the Senate, Senator Gillibrand, and our great La Luchadora, our great Congress member from New York, from Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan, the great Luchadora Velasquez. And first, I want to say a word about yesterday, about the news we received last night from the Parliamentarian. Last night's ruling was extremely disappointing. It saddened me, it frustrated me, it angered me, because so many lives are at stake. But make no mistake, the fight continues. Senate Democrats have prepared alternative proposals. We'll be holding additional meetings with the Parliamentarian in the coming days. I've worked very closely with my colleagues, including Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Durbin, as well as our four Latino senators, Padilla, Menendez, Lujan, and Cortez Masto, and we're going to continue our fight with the best options available to provide immigrants with a chance of obtaining lawful residence. The last year and a half, if it showed anything, it's how vital immigrants are to America. So many were healthcare workers, food workers. During COVID, immigrants, documented and undocumented, risked their lives for to help others. And we are so proud of them, and they are so much part of America. And it is unfortunate that some in the political sphere have chosen to try and make immigrants scapegoats, spreading lies about them, spreading false information about them. The American people understand how important immigrants are. The path to citizenship has broad support in the American people. I think it's up to 68% right now. And the American people understand that fixing our broken immigration system is a moral imperative. It's also an economic imperative because immigrants are so important to our economy. Talk about shortage of workers. One of the main reasons is how Trump cut back on immigrants, both documented and undocumented. Immigration reform has been one of the most important causes of my time in the Senate. I will not stop fighting to achieve it. Now, for the reason we're here today, the anniversary of the brutal Hurricane Maria. It's hard to think that it has been 4 years since Maria made landfall on Puerto Rico and devastated the lives of so many of our fellow Americans who live on that beautiful island. This was one of the worst natural disasters in American history. Today our thoughts are with the Puerto Rican families who lost a loved one in the aftermath of the storm. Hurricane Maria brought unimaginable pain and suffering to the people of Puerto Rico. Sadly, much of it is as a result of the deliberate delayed response of the Trump administration. It's 4 years later, and look at these pictures. Look at the blue roofs. Still things haven't been fixed up. Look at those beautiful people in the pictures here, and then look, 4 years later. We would not tolerate that. We would not tolerate that anywhere in America, but we are doing that in Puerto Rico, and that is disgraceful and unfortunate. It is so shameful how long it took for disaster relief to come out the door. We fought day in, day out, along with Francisco. Oh,
Congressman Soto.
Yes, can't see you in the mask. Thank you for being here, Congressman. And he does a great job in Florida. Frankie and I fought day in, day out, as did all of us here, to stop the Trump despicable discrimination against Puerto Rico. And finally, we got President Biden, we got Majority Leader Schumer, and of course Speaker Pelosi, and now the aid is flowing. We're working very, very hard. Everyone here knows that's the least we could do is get the aid that Puerto Rico is entitled to. These funds will currently rebuild homes and schools and hospitals, $10 billion for the power grid, which has been so destroyed and is hurting lack of power, hurting so many communities and hurting the economy. Now we will build it back bigger, better than ever, and resilient. So when, God forbid, the next storm occurs, we won't see the same destruction in that power grid. In order for Puerto Rico to be able to withstand the type of natural disasters, the island must have fair and equal access to resources, which Frankie outlined. Still so much discrimination. Do you know something we just corrected when we got power finally? Not electric power, political power. Do you know, this was so despicable. This was racist against the people of Puerto Rico. That only in Puerto Rico, when you had the child tax credit, only 3 children could get it. Everywhere else you could have 5 children, 7 children, 9 children, they'd all get it. Not Puerto Rico. We changed that. Praise God. But it was outrageous. It was just racist. We also provided a record amount of education aid using Chapter 1 for education, K through 12 and higher for Puerto Rico in the ARP. So we have begun to make some corrections as to the discrimination against Puerto Rico for so long. But we have a lot more to do. If climate change is left unchecked, we know that Puerto Rico will suffer, so much so, maybe more than anywhere else in the United States. So we must invest in the resiliency of Puerto Rico. And that's why in the Build Back Better plan, Puerto Rico would receive the funding it needs to build more resilient roads and bridges and airports, to upgrade the energy grid even further and decentralize it. So if it goes down in one place, the whole island doesn't get in trouble. To put solar on the rooftops, to expand internet access so every Puerto Rican family can have access. When a child doesn't have internet access, it puts them behind educationally. When a family doesn't, it puts them behind in so many other ways. And here's a good thing, because La Luchadora and I worked on this. We pushed very hard and got in the upcoming reconciliation bill $80 billion for public housing. The number 1 place that will benefit is our home state of New York. But you know the number 2 place that will benefit, because it has the 2nd largest amount of public housing in the country? Puerto Rico. And so there are so many things that are in this bill, but getting a resilient grid and getting resiliency in all of our infrastructure investments is so important. And, of course, we will try to do a better job at making sure the root cause of climate change is dealt with, which is our carbon emissions. So, we're working very hard to get renewable energy, clean transportation, clean buildings, low-carbon industries, regenerative agriculture in the reconciliation bill, and every one of those things will greatly benefit the people of Puerto Rico if we can pass it. So I want to assure my friends here behind me, and all the citizens, the great American citizens of the island of Puerto Rico, we are behind you. We have a lot of ground to make up, because for so many years, people on the other side of the aisle didn't want to pay attention to Puerto Rico. But now we are together. We have done some things, but our fight has just begun. We are going to make sure that Puerto Rico is treated equally in all the ways that Frankie outlined. So it's my honor to be here with all of you, to pledge my support for the fight, to wear this nice mask, and to